You know that little bit of redness or irritation you get from a new pair of earrings or maybe a new piercing? Yeah, we've probably all been there. But what if it's not just some random annoyance? What if it's actually a warning sign, a sign of a much bigger problem with some serious long-term consequences for your health? Because what your body might be trying to tell you is way more important than you think.
I mean, think about it. We usually just brush it off, right? Oh, my skin's just getting used to it. But that reaction, that's your body sending out a signal. So the real question we need to ask is, what's it actually telling you? Is it just a simple irritation, or is it a serious red flag about the metal you're putting in your body?
Okay, this is where it gets really serious. Get this. A major new study in the Contact Dermatitis journal found that women who've had any kind of jewelry allergy in the past have a staggering 6.11 times higher risk of developing a metal allergy after they get a medical implant. Just let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a small risk. This is a huge, flashing warning sign.
So that six-fold risk, it really gets to the heart of the problem here. It's a persistent, widespread issue with one specific material that's been causing trouble for decades, a lot of the time without us even realizing it. And the main culprit, the big one we've got to talk about, is nickel. And look, this isn't just a hunch. We're talking about a recent, super comprehensive study that looked at data from 882 patients over a 25-year period. And what they found? It scientifically proves what professional piercers have been saying for years. The material your jewelry is made of isn't just a style choice, it's a critical health decision. And believe me, this is not an isolated problem. Take a look at this. Even in Europe, where they have some of the tightest regulations, almost a quarter of the earrings they tested didn't meet the legal limits for nickel release. That points to a massive failure in the whole supply chain, not just a few bad products here and there. So how in the world did we get here? This timeline is pretty eye-opening. You can see Europe spotted the nickel problem and put rules in place way back in 1994. In the US, though, it was pretty much left to professional groups to push for voluntary standards. It's only now, in 2026, that new FDA regulations are finally starting to close this dangerous, decades-old gap. And this right here really breaks down the whole issue. In the European Union, it's simple. There are mandatory limits on nickel. It's the law. But in North America, well, for the longest time, safety has basically been a choice, not a requirement. This patchwork of rules is exactly why unsafe jewelry is still so common in some places. All right, so with all this risk floating around, what's the actual solution? The good news is there is one, and it's a material the medical field has trusted for a very long time. So let's talk about titanium, because this stuff is basically your body's best friend. Okay, you're going to hear this term a lot. ASTM F136. It sounds super technical, I know, but it's your guarantee of safety. And pay close attention to that ELI at the end. It's super important. It stands for extra low interstitial, which is just a fancy way of saying the material is incredibly pure. It's been stripped of all the tiny impurities that can cause those nasty allergic reactions. So what makes this stuff the absolute gold standard? Well, first off, it's 100% nickel-free, duh, but it's also biocompatible, which means your body just accepts it. No drama, no fight. I mean, come on, this is the exact same stuff they use for surgical implants like knee and hip replacements. If it's safe enough to be permanently inside your body, it is for sure the safest choice for a piercing. But of course, there's a catch, right? This level of quality and purity isn't the cheapest option out there. With the cost of supplies for piercing studios jumping by as much as 24%, you can see why there's this huge financial pressure to maybe cut corners and go with cheaper, lower grade, and ultimately much riskier materials. Which brings us to probably the single most important point of this whole conversation. In the world we live in today, it's not enough to just use the right material. You have to be able to prove it. Documentation is the new, non-negotiable gold standard for safety. Yeah, the game is totally changing. With new FDA and EU rules coming online, just saying something is implant grade doesn't cut it anymore. Honestly, it's become a pretty meaningless marketing term if you don't have the paperwork to back it up. Now, proof of what's in the metal is a professional and even legal necessity.
So what does that proof actually look like? Well, it's called a mill test report, or an MTR. The easiest way to think about it is like a birth certificate for the metal. It's issued before the metal is ever shaped into jewelry, and it certifies the exact chemical makeup, proving that it meets those super strict ASTM F136 purity standards. It is the absolute definitive proof.
Okay, so what do you do with all this information? Here's your checklist. Whether you're a client getting pierced or a professional buying jewelry for your studio, this is what you need to do. First, straight up ask for the mill test report. Second, you need to see the certificate of compliance for the final piece. And third, make sure there's batch traceability. And look, this isn't about being difficult. This is about being smart and safe.
Really, it all boils down to this one simple, powerful idea. For years, the industry kind of ran on stories and trust in your supplier. But the science, the data, and now the regulations all point to a new reality. So the next time you get a piercing or buy some body jewelry, just ask that one question. Can you prove it's safe? Because at the end of the day, your health depends on real documentation, not just a good story.